morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Atlanta Discuss. This is our fourth episode in the series on YouTube. Yes, YouTube, we're there. We're bringing everything to you directly, and we like going straight to the point always. But today, we're coming back with something that really pricks the conscience of people, especially from Africa's largest country. When I say country, I mean population-wise, not landmass. I'm talking Nigeria. We want to take a look at the Nigerian economy. It seems to be spiraling down into the abyss. Why this is so well, it's not far-fetched. Everybody knows what the problem is. It just seems like nobody knows what the solution is. So it still remains Atlanta Discuss. Here, we're trying to embrace all facets of humanity, to disseminate positive news in a world filled with a lot of bad news. We give a lot of voice to the unheard, which is our major credo. We balance the information equation. We search for the facts wherever it leads us. We combine the best of the human race to get the best out of mankind. We search as a bridge between the developing and the developed world. We embrace business, arts, sports, IT, health, history, and faith-based issues. We never shy away from the facts. So today, I have two of my best friends and buddies. You know them already. They're here for the second time. We have Adejuwon and Jory. Adejuwon, welcome to Atlanta Discuss.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, I have my main man also, Peter Ogurike. Peter, welcome to Atlanta Discuss.
For having me.
Yeah, great. Now, these guys, you've seen them before. They just go for the jugular like we do on Atlanta Discuss. They don't take prisoners. They say it the way it is. So now we're talking about the Nigerian economy, and let's just cut the chase and hit the road and say it the way it is. Guys, it is getting out of hand. I don't want to bore anybody by saying in 1962, Nigeria and China were like this. In 1962, Nigeria and South Korea were at par. In 19something, Malaysia came here for oil palm sample. Now they're this. Nigeria in 1960 was the greatest country. You know, all those. I'm actually fed up with those statistics that people just reel out every now and then. Nigeria should have been. We all know we had economic parity with almost all the Asian tigers, the great countries of Asia, including India and China. You know, we have prospect, we know, we refuse to develop it. Gentlemen, let me start with you, Peter. Where did we get it wrong economically?
I'll tell you where I think we got it wrong.
Okay, where you think? Okay, that's why we're asking you.
So I think it all started with when some elements realized the amount of money the natural resource crude oil was generating. And you see, when you don't understand how money works and you don't know how to create wealth, right? What it means is you've been taught to go to work and provide shelter for the family and feed and clothe yourself. And sadly, that seems to have been the culture or tradition from generations, our parents and their parents, right? Because even when we're going to school, they say either be doctor, engineer, lawyer, whatever, right? It's all about work for somebody, make money, and then take care of your family. Now you have people who are now in government or leadership. They now see how easy it is to lay hands on the earnings of a nation in foreign exchange, that they now feel, well, there's no need to work for it. And then that's when the sharing formula began. Now, everything from the old agricultural sector, everything Nigeria was known for in terms of revenue generation was ignored. You see, I mean, there are basic factors that actually affect the growth economy of a country, right? You have land, you have labor, you have capital, you have the whole entrepreneurship, right? On that land, you're looking at things like your natural resources, which is where you have your oil and gas, coal, and other metals, right? Then you have other labor, your people, labor force, creation of work. You know, the more people work based on their qualification, what they bring to the table, there's some kind of taxation. And hopefully it's put back in the system, invested in the system for the good of everybody, right? You go to capital, and talk about capital expenditures, organizations, companies, manufacturing. You see, manufacturing was left to just die, right? So now when you look at the key factors that actually are sources of revenue generation being ignored, who drives the economy? It's not the most wealthy group of people in the society, because you have the very minimal in terms of percentage, right? It's your middle class. And then you talk about entrepreneurship, what people might want to refer to as your micro businesses, right? It's all about what goods and services are we generating? What goods and services are we putting out there for people that meet people's demands, what the people need, right? It's that trade, the circle. I have to have something to offer you for an exchange of, be it whatever back in the the day, but now you can say for cash, right? And then I go back and then I come back again with a new goods or services, whatever it might be. And that cycle continues, right? And then in an organized society, I'm paying my taxes as a business person based on a percentage of what I've made as in terms of profit. The guy who's in manufacturing, the employees who are manufacturing goods for whatever distribution, they're being taxed as well. A percentage is being remitted back to the society. Now, these taxes are being used to develop the common areas, if I may, right? And organizations are for profits. They're growing. The bigger they get, they expand. As they expand, they employ more people. Revenue growth increases. You cannot generate revenue when all you do is consume. You see, that's sometimes when P2B says production, he wants to take the country from consumption to production. People just think it's a slogan. No, you need to go back to the basics.
That's right.
Then you go back and say, okay, well, I mean, when we were all in secondary school, the basic economics, what are the basic factors of economics or whatever, right? The way you talk about your natural resources, your roads, your security, water, and all those basic things, basic amenities. You look at Nigeria, for example, all these basic amenities that drive production, that drive entrepreneurship, that drive innovation, they're not there. So how does such a society go into production? You see, people always like to focus on the government, the leadership. You see, if Nigeria has security, roads, good roads, because I mean, if you could manufacture anything, you need to go from the source of production to the consumer, right? Be it the market, be it whatever it is. Good roads, electricity, because if you look at the overhead of most organizations, what's killing them actually is electricity. Everybody's doing diesel. They're not profitable. Provide good water. You see, if these three things are in place, because security especially, the citizens are going to drive the economy. The environment is going to be somewhat conducive for investors or early investors to come in. They're going to build on that. And then more people are going to say it's viable. And then more people are going to come in, right? But security, especially because, I mean, the situation in Nigeria has deteriorated so badly that the farmer cannot go to the farm without the fear of being kidnapped, murdered. I mean, we've seen what's been happening, right? You have people up there who are borrowing money. It's not bad to borrow money, but if you're going to borrow money, you borrow money to grow your business. You don't borrow money to start a business, no. If you want to start a business, do not borrow money to start a business. But once your business is profitable, right, then you can borrow money to grow it. You look at what the leadership is doing. It's the lazy man's way of, okay, well, they speak all this English, they write all these, I don't know who they think they're deceiving. They borrow the money. Okay, what are you growing? No. All they do is they share it among themselves, the lawmakers. So they consume that money, they kill the money right there. The masses are suffering. No food. Now, no revenue growth within your economy. You look at what the foreign exchange is doing. You have policies that are just, I mean, it's like they want to do things just so they can check the box that it was done, but nobody's actually reviewing the impact on the economy. Nobody's even doing some kind of feasibility analysis to figure out, okay, well, what we're trying to do, has it been tried and tested? They just do these things and throw it up. And then so many people, it's sad. So many Nigerians are so gullible that because of some reason, I'm not sure what it is, they want to believe what is it? Grammar. You speak big grammar, oh yeah, and then someone comes out and regurgitates the same thing. I'm like, can we just take a step backwards? Understand what we're talking about. This thing they're proposing. So, for example, now the current leadership is this whole big talk about taxes and taxes and taxes. Taxes work, but there has to be a precursor. There has to be a foundation for that concept to apply. You're not going to have an organization that is not profitable. You're not manufacturing. Then you say, okay, well, I'm going to be paying my employees X amount of salaries. Oh, for the formality's sake, we're going to tax you. All right. You're paying them. That's good. They're going to take the money. They're going to go. They're going to live their life and whatever. You're going to tax them based on the taxation. Okay, fine. They're going to give you the money for the taxes. Then what next? Organization is not producing. What are you producing? Because you need to be profitable to be able to take care of your overhead.
The question, why is it so difficult? Why is it so difficult? The Nigerians, all these things you're saying, the Nigerians doing it in different parts of the world. Nigerians are doing it for the countries they are domiciled in. If we know, that's why the question, if you listen to what I said earlier on, we all seem to know what to do and all that. You know, that's why I said, how did we get here? Why don't we do the right thing? Is it so difficult to do the right thing?
I mean, early gratification can be one. The other piece is not understanding how money works, right? Because there's a saying the Igbos say, ego keja chego, as in it's money they use in making money. So now when you look at that equation, you use money to make money. In the Western world, they will call it OPP, right? Other people's money or whatever, right? You take that money, you churn it around, you make profits. If it's borrowed money, you pay back based on the times, but you use that to grow. I use $10, I make $11. I have a profit of $1. I turn it around. $1 is what? 10% of $10. And then I repeat, I rinse and I repeat, I rinse and I repeat. Then it gets to a point where I can grow that money at what? 20%. And then with that 20% amount, I can use it to get a loan. If I'm lucky, that will.
You know why I'm laughing? Yeah, you make it sound so easy. Man. I mean, if it's as easy as you're saying it.
No, it's easy.
Mm.
It's easy. Look at it this way. It's easy. It's like, for example, now as an individual, you say, okay, well, I'm struggling. How do I? And I'm going to digress. It's difficult. I want to start a business. I want to grow. The banks are there. The bank's the financial institution designed to make money. The bank does not feed on the money it houses, right? Which is other people's money, pretty much its house, it's keeping, right? The bank really is there to say, hey, Mr. A, Mr. B, what do you have to offer? Can you help us take this money, turn it around so that you can make some money while we make some money? If you can prove that to the bank, you're going to be the bank's best friend. Banks are looking for people that have a tested, proven roadmap, or let's say a reputation of being profitable. And the bank is going to give you all the loans you need. When America...
Okay, let me cut you off there a bit. Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot to say, have some time. So I'll go to Adejuwa and Jory. How did we get into this morass, so to say? Is there a way out?
Thank you very much for having me again, along with Peter. The economic situation in Nigeria is very, very sobering. It's so sad that sometimes the way you described when we started, like, it's spiraling through the abyss. You know, when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, it was always a rhyme that, oh, things are hard. Musicians would sing Ilule Kosolo Day, you know, which is things are hard. There's no money out there. We didn't know we were living in paradise at the time. Over the past 10 years, let me say 10 years, 8 years, since the coming of President Buhari, it has been a complete and total decimation and destruction of Nigeria's economy. Over 133 million Nigerians living in multi-dimensional poverty, abject poverty, penury. 56% unemployment, youth unemployment rate, 56%. Over half of our youth don't have any productive engagements to do. Inflation going through the roof. For an import-dependent economy, our exchange rate is total. This is bad, man. And it's been coming through the years, like Peter mentioned. We essentially abandoned our intellectual power. We abandoned our productive power. We embraced oil money. Around the time we discovered oil was when head of state Gowon told the world that Nigeria's problem was not money. It was how to spend it. We have so much money, we didn't even know how to spend it. So we went from a country that was awash with cash or wealth to where we are now. So yes, I think Peter is right on the money. Abandoning production, abandoning collapse of manufacturing, the increase in profligate corruption, like corruption that's mind-boggling, and capital flight, which has shipped billions of dollars of wealth out of Nigeria. All of these things, knee-jerk policies that were not well thought out, are not well implemented. Copycat policies, cut and paste policies from economies where other factors of wealth generation are in place. These are some of the problems. You go and copy some like structural adjustment program in the 80s, you just bring it home to a country, but we have epileptic power supply. We kept devaluing our currency, and now this is where we are today, where $1 exchanges for close to 1,000 naira. At the same time, income is not growing up for our people, and most of them don't even have jobs. So it's been a long journey getting here. The past decade has been worse. President Buhari had no idea what he was doing with the economy, unfortunately. Shut the borders to improve local production, but the farmers can't go to the farm because of insecurity. There's no electricity to power manufacturing. So what's the Russia going to come from, and that just drove things down. But there were other issues like global issues like COVID, the Russia-Ukraine war, the scarcity of food and grain coming from that part of the world, and things like that. So I remember 3 years ago during the heat of the COVID, my dad is a pastor. He was a pastor in Asaba in Delta State at the time. I woke up one morning and I called him. I said, "Daddy," because the pastor, one of the churches it's not a new generation church. It's one of the old churches where it's just artisans and people, So, "Daddy, how are your people in your church?" I don't understand like the way prices are going up in Nigeria, because I follow this news on a daily basis. And he told me straight up, like, it's really, really bad. He's so bad that as a pastor, he can't even ask people to give up food anymore. And that in his house, in his mission house where he lives, a lot of church members just come and dump their kids there after they close from school because the church members don't have food to give their children at home. How is he going to ask them to give offering? He said, "You know what? The allowance you give me and mom, and that I sent to my parents, he used it to feed the children of the church members." So he puts me on the video call and he shows me his house in Asaba. And it was like a nursery school. It was the afternoon and these kids are coming to eat. Their parents could not feed them. So I got a couple of friends together. We just sent money to the market, bought bags of rice and beans, shipped it to his church, and he distributed to the people during COVID, because this thing just touches me. So there's a number of things that has gotten us to this place. And I think that by all means, our leadership failed us without a shadow of doubt. The quality of leadership we have is not good for allowing this kind of thing to get this bad. Currency to fall this bad, insecurity to fall this bad, manufacturing. GlaxoSmithKline they just pulled out of Nigeria now. They're going away. That's jobs gone. That's secondary jobs gone. Marketing jobs, ad agency, supplier, whatever it is, gone. And that's been going on for years and decades because it's too expensive to produce in Nigeria, because there's no electricity, because there's no security, because the roads are so bad. To get a truck from Lagos to the north is just insanely expensive. So this is where we are. To move forward, a lot of people are saying that President Tinubu has, it's making the right moves. His policy to remove fuel subsidy, which is like yanking the bandage off a sore. It's like yanking the bandage off an open sore without considering the amount of pain it will inflict on the person who is hurt. But we are told that things are going to get better eventually. But right now, people's eyes are seeing red. The unification of the rates, of the forex rates that has been done, which has further caused Naira to slump. So imports are going to be more expensive. So goods are going to be more expensive. Food's going to be more expensive. And people, unfortunately, Nigerians are going to have to go through it. And we can only hope for the better in the near future.
Let me put this to you right now. Yeah. I mean, I agree with everything you said. Atlanta discuss, we always discuss. I also have an opinion and all that, but I've been pondering over this issue, and what comes to my mind, and I'm going to start with you, Adejuwon, is this. If in 1966, Izugu, Ifeanyi, all those guys did not plan the January 66 coup, and that was the first coup on paper, and of course, there was a retaliatory coup in July of that year from Murtala and the Ilks, and we never looked back. Today, if you look at our politics, everybody, the strategic stakeholders in Nigerian politics are still the military guys. There's retired guys, Major General, retired military guys, retired Air Force, retired policemen in Senate, in House of Rep. Now, my question to you is this. If there was no military incursion in our politics, so to say, in 66, Valiwa had finished the tenure and we're just going on democratically like that. In your own opinion, do you think we'll have been better off? Do you think we won't be going through what we're going through now?
100%. Nigeria, in its 63 years now, 63 years of existence, yes.
October
Nigeria,
1.
Exactly. So in our 63 years of existence as a corporate entity called Nigeria, independent Nigeria experienced its fastest and highest rate of development between 1960 and 1966. Yes. In the southwest of Nigeria, under the leadership of the late sage Obafemi Awolowo, using cocoa money, this was not oil money, this was cocoa money, agriculture, people farming. And we were not heavily industrialized at the time. Industrialization was coming to agriculture, but it wasn't heavily industrialized. But using the income from cocoa and responsible visionary leadership, Chief Obafemi Awolowo declared free education in the entire Southwest, which pushed the Yorubas ahead in education before other regions caught up with it. Chief Obafemi Awolowo paid the highest minimum wage in Nigeria at the time. Chief Obafemi Awolowo built the biggest and best university in Nigeria at the time, Obafemi Awolowo University of Ile-Ife. He built the Cocoa House. He built Liberty Stadium. Do you know that under Chief Obafemi Awolowo's leadership in the Southwest, we had TV before half of Europe? The entire Eastern Europe did not have TV. We had TV.
Yeah.
Yes, we had
The
TV and radio.
Romanians, the Bulgarians of
Yes,
this.
yes. We had TV and radio before them. We were ahead of half of Europe. But as soon as the coup happened and it failed and the military boys took over, military boys, they are not trained statesmen. They were not like Zeke, the Zeeks of this world. What's the name of the guy? Is he Mbadiwe that was in the East at the time? Obafemi Awolowo. Yeah.
So many of those.
Yeah, they didn't have this. They didn't have that kind of skill set, and they began what we are talking about now. They were the ones that started the destruction, and then laced with oil money, they lost their minds, and then after coup, they tried to outdo each other in corruption and visionlessness. So to answer your question, yes, if we had not had that jerky interruption into our Republican development as a country, we will be faring better now. I truly, truly believe that, because those statesmen, they had a crew of statesmen behind them that they were training that will have handed over to them. I know for sure in the Southwest, you had like people like Bola Ige, Bisi Onabanjo, Lateef Jakonde. There was awonomics. They call it, it's awonomics to call it. There was a set of principles that the man was handing down to his followers. So we will have had steady development. Maybe not at the same pace as the Asian Tigers or the United States, but it would not be this bad. The military, they bear a big part of the blame, for where we are today.
Okay, quick question. Let me just put it to you before I go to Peter. Now, at that time, we're talking about Western region, Eastern region, Northern region, Midwestern, and all that. So when you were mentioning those regions, something came to my mind. They were competing, because when I started UI, the East had Onsuka, the North had
ABU.
Yeah, there was serious, good rivalry, and it was healthy, So do you think if we had stayed in the region, this is a yes or no? Do you think if we had remained with that political structure of East, West, Northern region, you think Nigeria will also be better off?
By far. And that is why every time Nigeria has convened any form of intellectual gathering to propose a solution to our problems, they always go back to devolution of powers. Some people call it, what's the popular term they call it? Restructuring. Yeah, they call it restructuring, devolution of powers. All of that are shadow attempts at going back to what we were before Agui Ronsi declared a unification of our government as a federal entity. And it completely drove away that healthy rivalry you're talking about. It's with joy. Like when Peter Obi, under Peter Obi's leadership in Anambra State, one of the things that got me on Peter Obi, when I heard that under his leadership, he led Anambra State from in WAEC, in education, secondary education, from like number 30-something in Nigeria to number 1, like literally. They beat everybody. If we had that kind of healthy rivalry between the regions, by now, like I said the last time we met, by now, the eastern region of Nigeria will have produced cars. I know for sure. They will have produced my machine guns. They will have produced armor tanks. They potentially will have led Africa into aeronautics.
I agree with you.
Edward, one of my biggest pain points, I'm going to say it again, is because without science and technology, Africa is not going to develop quick. We can't compete without science and technology. And I have studied Africa. I've studied the different nations in Africa. Everybody is endowed. The Igbo are endowed with science and technology. Is innate, is inbuilt. So if we are going to make it through and be able to compete and build our own nuclear plants, how is it that the Nigeria Republic is the 7th largest producer of uranium? They give France how many percentage of the uranium that powers the electricity? But in Africa, we don't even have a nuclear plant functioning anywhere.
Unbelievable.
Yes. Who are the people that you think would have led that innovation? Who are the people that can gather metal at the back of a house with local tools and knock it together and create something?
Let's go to Peter now.
It's,
Yeah, but
it's indigo. You know?
before we go to Peter, there's something I just want to say. I've always said this for as long as maybe when I was in secondary school, because I was privileged to read a book. I think it was Begbele's book about civil war. So I just took an interest in the Nigerian civil war, and before I knew, I'd consumed well over 60 books on that civil war. Small journal, big journal. I even read for the first.
It draws you in.
Yeah. So from Obasanjo's my command and all that, so many, I still have a couple of them. So it gave me an insight. And everything I say about that war, everything I pick from that war, is what has been synonymous with all the books I've read. You understand? Some might be true and be just 3 or 4 books, but there's some things that, you see that is uniform. Now, what I'm trying to say is this. I am 100% sure that if Biafra, for example, had been a nation of itself, what you call Southeast and South-South, now, I'm sure there will have been a Biafran Airways that, if not better than Ethiopian Airways, will be at par with it.
I believe that.
Yeah. Number 2, Onne Port, Calabar Port will have been a major sea hub for the West Africa, East African coast, and even for Africa, they will have been major sea hub. Number 3 is that the public would have never been a Dangote cement, because the likes of Ibeto, what they were doing in Enugu, they will have probably done extraordinary things. There was coal, and during that war, they didn't really have too much problem with power, despite the shortcomings, the coal in Enugu, Talago, and all that. So like you said, I think those regions should have stayed, and it does look to me that in the future we might just have to go back to it, because I think we're almost battered to a stage whereby we may not have anything to turn to again. So, Peter, don't worry, we know you're still there. We didn't ignore you. So tell me, you think if the coup of 1966, led by Ifejuna, Kaduna Eziogu, even though they tapped the animal coup, I don't think it is, from what I've read, that there were so many Yorubas and some middle, better elements involved in that coup. Do you think if that coup didn't take place, Nigeria would be better off? Peter?
Well, let me put it this way. I don't like dwelling in the past. So if we want to be reasonable, we can say it's a 50-50, right? But there's no way we can tell. Now, the question is, what's the common denominator between pre that coup and now? Is the Nigerian citizens. You can say, okay, well, the military were trained combat people, they're not business savvy, and then they came in and then they now made people realize that, hey, there's money to be squandered, right? Fine. How long has the country been in the democratic rule?
For 3 years now.
Okay. So when you look at it, then you ask.
That's a good one. That's a very good one.
We can't blame the military for whatever happened, right? It's the citizens.
But 23 years of our democracy, 16 under military turned civilian. Let's not forget.
That's true. Yes.
16 under the khaki boys, the same class, 1964 class.
What's the percentage of this group of people compared to the citizens of the country? It's a minute number of people, right?
But they wield a lot of power. So this is the thing. They do.
Hold on 1 second. So that's why I'll beg to differ in this.
Okay, we're here. Let's discuss.
Now we're looking at Nigeria. And then sometimes we tend to look at Nigeria as though Nigeria is one state of the country, right? Let's go down to the granular level. How many states in the country of Nigeria, are being led by the military? These are civilians. Some of them are supposedly educated people. if you're not generating, see, because the country or these states, they neglected manufacturing. So the problem is you cannot produce enough for your local consumption, let alone export.
Export.
Now you can't export anything. Your foreign exchange, there's no wishing it away.
There's no
So it
wealth
doesn't matter
generation.
whether, yeah, it
There's
doesn't
no
matter
wealth
whether it's
generation.
80%.
Yes.
Yeah. You're not going to wake up one day, put a policy, and then boom, the Naira starts improving. No. It's a global world. What do you have to offer? Manufacturing sector being neglected, right? Now you look at the current situation in terms of those who are employed in Nigeria. The sectors, like the private sectors and the rest of them, do not generate that much money or revenue for the state or the country. Whatever they do, private sector is for profit. At the most, the state might get is taxes on them. And well, that's if they even pay it. So majority of your citizens are not in the workforce. For the kind of population you have, it doesn't make sense. So be it military or not, because show me one state in the country that you can say, okay, well, these guys came in and they've set up their state like an organization to where they're doing well and generating income. So many people like to brag about Lagos and what somebody whose name shall not be mentioned did in Lagos and all whatnot, right? Lagos used to be the capital of the country. If anything, that was multiple steps ahead of the rest of the states.
Yeah, it's an advantage, no doubt. Yeah.
The
The
international,
head start.
everybody. I mean, it's normal. Everybody's going to come in, set up shop, because it's all about interest. We're going to come into your nation. We're going to come to your country. We're going to come to your state. We're going to come to your company. We're going to do this. If it has to be a lease, fine. We're going to employ some of your employees, or your citizens or whatever. We're going to create jobs for something. Now, if these guys are business savvy and they're able to sit at that negotiating table and negotiate something that is meaningful to the growth of the state and their citizens, yeah, they're going to come out well. But you see, education has been nosediving. People send their kids overseas, those who can afford it. What percentage of Nigerians can afford to send their kids overseas to go and study? It's minimal compared to those who cannot. So you look at the nation and its population, and majority of them, well, the option they are left with in terms of education deteriorated. If you cannot educate your people, how are they going to be productive? You have innovations, you have dreams that are going to the grave. Sadly, that's the situation in Nigeria, because the enabling environment is not made available for them to succeed. I remember back in the day, people would say, oh, Aba, made in Aba, made in Aba, and it was like frowned upon as though, oh, it's fake or it's not superior. And then China. But now everybody's going to China to import into the country. Now, the standards that those things are produced, you have all these regulations going on. Nigerians don't care. And it's sad. You see, I used to look into manufacturing like at one point in time, right? And then when I was trying to do some sort of business or something, you go to Turkey and these Asian countries, and you understand, you meet these manufacturers, you understand, okay, well, there are different standards and grades of the quality of whatever you want them to produce for you, right? So now you say, okay, well, I want to be profitable. I mean, if you're doing a business and then tell you, okay, what's your return on investment, right? You can say, okay, well, let's do 25, 30%. Consistency is key. You're not going to want to do like 100%. You don't want to do like, but these days people do things and they want to make 100, 200, 300% profit and they say it's business. No, consistency, right? But you see, Nigerians, for example, I'm sure other countries do it. They come to these manufacturers and they ask for substandard quality because of the greed. And they're going to bring it into the country where the people, the citizens or the consumers are not well informed. They're going to sell it to them at a competitive rate, but not measurable to the quality. So which means more profit for them. They rinse and repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. No regulations in the country to checkmate all those things. But the question is, why do you even have to go out when you can do it locally?
Within.
You see? Sometimes you ask me, okay, why is this? You look at these two items, they look alike from aesthetically and optics, right? It's when you feel rigidity, you've realized, okay, well, there's something wrong. But from a distance, you look at it, they all look the same. Now, why is it that I'm going to invest $10? If I make a profit of $5, that's 50%. That's a lot after overhead, right? But no, I'll say, okay, no, I want to invest $10, but I want to make a profit of 20. So then I'm going to say that's about 30. Or better still, I'll say, okay, well, if it's going to be $10, that's what the competition is doing. That's the good standard. I'm like, no, provide the one that's about $1 for me, but I'm going to sell it at that same rate, or maybe 1% lower, so that I appear reasonable or competitive. But that's a ripoff. The greed in, that's what's, but when you have regulations and a standard has to be met, then the competition, there's going to be competition, right? You can't fix price. Well, I mean, Nigerian, I'm sure they will do all the unethical things. It's about, they say, whoever you sell, they call you, if I sell to you more above MSRP, then you be Mugu, right? And then I say, okay, well, I'm profitable and the business is good, which is sad. But when you have a standard, you have regulations, you have a standard, people can afford to spend their money and they can live with it that, hey, I got the value of what I spent, right? Rinse, repeat, business is going to be moving. Things are going to be going smoothly and people know what the expectations are. But now your people come in, have this manufacturer set a low standard. Now, these manufacturers, they're teaching them things because these manufacturers, mind you, are the same people manufacturing for the Western nations, all these other countries and all these organizations that have strict rules, right? You have people who are, it's like, hey, we're not going to be part of this whole like a slave type mentality. People that are going to be working on our materials, our products, or our brand cannot work more than 40 hours a week. They are that strict. And then they come in, they ask for the logs and things like that. Then you have people coming from a different country and it's like, man, we don't really care about this. Let's cut corners. Let's try and make. You're teaching them that, oh, well, you have no value for your people, especially when you're dealing with items or goods that actually have to deal with safety. You're sending the message that, oh, you don't really care for your people. Oh, my country doesn't have regulations. Oh, they don't really bother, right? Then guess what? The next time somebody comes from that same country, these manufacturers are going to say, okay, you know what? Let's make some money. That standard, that is $10. They're going to tell you, oh, yeah, that's, if you want that standard as $10, it's going to cost you $25. But we can give you $10 for that one that guy will get for $1. Now, they've set the bar. They're not making the money. Now, when they get so many customers that they can swap like that, giving them a $10 unit price for something that should be $1. You started, all those group of people that have started initiating this, that are poisoning their mind or fed them, or giving them these ideas, when they come, either they still want to work with you or they tell you the rates have gone up. At that point, what can you do? You're forced to look for another manufacturer at that point, right? But now you've told them that, hey, all the guys coming to them from your country, you have no regulations, no disregard for your citizens. We're going to make profits. Now the profit is.
Yeah, but I mean, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. But where I disagree is that we actually have regulations. It's nobody
Just
is
don't follow them.
You don't follow them. The Standard Organization of Nigeria.
Nigeria.
The Standard Organization of Nigeria.
That's what I'm saying. We don't have regulation. Yes, on paper we have it, but if you're not enforcing it, you can't say you have it. Because you have it, and these guys are doing what they're doing, then you're going to check them at the point of.
You know what I think? And this is my honest opinion from the bottom of my heart, from my experience as a Nigerian looking to all that. I think Nigeria is a failed state.
I won't say
that. I said, it's my opinion, and I'll give you my reasons. All the major indices for determining whether a state is failed or not. Nigeria ticks it. Health, 0. Education, 0. Security, 0. Security, protection of life and property, 0. Out of the 6 sub-regions, 4 are in turmoil today. Northwest, Northeast, North Central, and Southeast. 4 out of 6 has failed. You understand? The rest, when you say South, and Southwest, that seem to be relatively peaceful. They have the issues they're grappling with too. So security, health, education, comatose. There's no enforcement of it. We cannot even organize free and fair elections. I think that number one is an insignia of failure. You understand? Somebody asked for 350 billion naira. Half of that money, more than half of that money was supposed to be for technology. You understand? And we had an election, that technology did not work. And there's nobody asking, not in law enforcement, not in Nigerian Department of Justice, asking why what you got taxpayers' money to buy is not working. So I think we're a failed state. I think it's going to get bad. It's going to get worse. It's going to hit rock bottom very soon. It's looking like it every day. And I think the only hope is that if it hits that rock bottom, it will recalibrate. The mode of recalibration, I don't know. How the recalibration will take place, I don't know. I'm not going to go into that. But I'm not going to allow you guys leave without talking about Chad, Niger, West Africa, and all that, because it's looking to me like if, and I'll say it, if Nigeria ever ventures militarily, the way we are right now, the way the country is structured economically, the way everything is going, it looks like that recalibration is going to come indirectly. Guys, do you think Nigeria should go to Nigeria? What's your overview? Peter, let me start with you. What's your overview? I mean, we do understand that there could be a possibility that maybe the president of the day is scared because of what the court is likely to come up with. I'm going to ask you about that later also, because I don't think I just step it. But should it be the responsibility of Nigeria going to Niger to enforce a civilian rule or, play big brother role? What are the dynamics? Does it make sense? The utterances of our government so far. I mean, do we know what we're doing? Is the ship of state rudderless? You understand what I'm saying? So what do you think, Peter?
Well, based on let me just make a statement based on what you had said before. Say Nigeria is the failed state. Well, it might appear as that, right? Shows all the symptoms, if I may, right? But it's very, very salvageable. What it has or what she needs is having the right people, the qualified people, giving them the opportunity to come in and do the right thing.
Yeah, but you can't get those people in power if your elections are not free and fair. In the past, Nigerians' election used to be free, but not fair. Now it's not free. It's not fair.
Well, you see, part of leadership, right, is not about micromanaging. You can have the power, you can be the leader, but you see, the test of true leadership is you being able to assemble the right team based on competence, not based on my person or based on compensation. And that's the problem Nigeria has. People want to surround their cronies because they're scared. They don't want somebody who's going to rat them out. That's what it is, Back to this whole responsibility should be whether Nigeria should be. There's some things I don't want. Some information I'm privy to, and I don't want to speak to it based on certain things, right? But I say this: how do you rate a parent who can provide 2 square meals, not 3 now, 2 square meals for their kids, deciding that they're going to drive the initiative of ensuring their neighbors' kids can have 3-course meals on a daily? A misplaced priority. Now, the reasons behind that is up for debate. We know what the signals are. We know what the intentions are. It's going to play out. We're all going to see it. But you took an oath. You swore. Your oath is, and your allegiance is to your country and her citizens. That's priority 1. And then nothing is secondary.
Those things don't matter in Nigeria. It's oaths.
So now, if you say, okay, well, from a political standpoint, you say, okay, I want to be relevant in the global stage. So I need to act powerful. I need to act like I know what I'm doing. You need to be asking yourself, the people I want to go and dine with and pray with, are they really respecting me for who I am or what I've done for my people? Or are they respecting or appearing to respect me for their own interests? Now, they say, I think I mentioned this in the last time, if you're in a business deal, and there are negotiations going on, and you cannot identify, I'll use the word, the weak link. In other words, the person who has the poorest bargain on that table, then know you're the one. But again, it might be a segue to something that you're looking for. Now, the question is, okay, you're putting self before your nation and her citizens. We can dissect this question in different ways, but you see, eventually, is going to come up to the open. Those who are right will be right. Those who are wrong will be wrong. Those who allow themselves to be wrong, they will find out, right? But the question is going to be at whose expense? The greed, selfishness is natural with humans. It doesn't have to do with your religion, your tribe, or whatever, right? The question is, okay, well, if you don't really have empathy and you don't really have the skill for leadership, what business do you have?
So are you saying you can't give what you don't have?
You cannot. You cannot. And then you have power. What next?
You misapply it.
We're all going to, like I always say this, I'm like, we're all going to walk. We're just on a journey.
Mm.
Nobody's going to live here forever. And when you're leaving, you're not taking anything with you.
Nada.
The most important thing is the impact you left. How do you want to be remembered? Or how are you going to be remembered? Well,
So,
but again, people don't really care. They're like, oh, whatever. People, I'm gone. That's the mentality, right?
you think clearly the ship of state is rudderless from all indication from what you're saying. And we don't have any business even discussing what's happening in Nigeria or going there and all that because we don't have a leadership, supposedly.
Look at it. This is democracy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Regime. Look at how that decision was made. No diplomacy, no nothing. And then there was one of the meetings they had, and then I saw somebody say, one of the guys who was driving the meeting say something about, and this is what he said. When they had all these other countries in that meeting, he's like, it's a disrespect. I'm paraphrasing now. It's more like it's a disrespect to the president of. Now you see ego. They're talking about leadership. Mm-hmm. So now they've made that decision. They've given an ultimatum before considering diplomacy. But what they're trying to do is, okay, let's say we're going to apply diplomacy, but let's fit that request within that initial deadline we've provided. So you see, it's all optics. Because if you're a true leader, you can say, okay, yeah, we made a mistake, or we're going to think through this whole thing. You can move your deadline out and give them. But no, you've already made that deadline. Then you're like, oh, shoot, we didn't give them the option of diplomacy. It might come across as funny. Okay, let's give them that option in between while still maintaining that. A struggle for power.
Let me go to Adejumo. Adejumo, what do you think will be the outcome of all this? Niger improve. We've discussed it in the past with other forums and all that. What's your take on the entire thing?
So real quick, because of our time, I'll just touch 3 items, but real quick. Nigeria is not yet a failed state. A lot of the indices are checked. But if you look at a failed state in the sense of what Somalia was at the time, what Yemen has been for some time, we still have a core that can be. There's a chance for salvaging. The core is still there, even though the country itself has taken a lot of beating. So we are not yet failed yet. The CIA prediction that Nigeria will have fallen apart as at 5 years ago. For some reason, we're still hanging on. So we keep hope alive. Then secondly, I want to quickly touch on the topic of the day, which is the economy, and what I want to say is the economy is really bad right now. I think that our leadership needs to be responsible. They shouldn't ask Nigerians to sacrifice while they are living large. Recently, the Senate was going to spend $70 billion naira to buy cars. Today, news came out that the Kebbi State governor has just issued 675 million naira to buy furniture for local government chairmen. At the same time, you are telling Nigerians that sacrifice because things are going to get better. Much of leadership is about virtue signaling, giving hope to the people. So if you're asking our people to sacrifice, people are hungry right now. People are trekking in Lagos, trekking long distances because they can't afford transport fare. So please, Nigerian leaders need to be more responsible. They need to lead in the sacrifice, that you're asking Nigerians to make. So I just want to drop that now. As regarding Niger Republic, absolutely, I do not think that the matter even warrants a military invasion at all. The military coup was bloodless. Like Boala said today on ZRS TV, nobody was killed. The president that was ousted was not killed. His family was not injured. Nobody has been killed. Now you want soldiers to go and kill each other. For what? For what? What are you trying to salvage? That's number one. Number two, Going back to Nigeria's economy, we've closed our border with the Niger Republic. We do about $1 billion a year in trade along those lines. A lot of the communities in the north who depend on the trade that coming from Niger right now, they have been cut off from their economic source. That's going to get worse. That's going to fuel more banditry. That's going to fuel more Boko Haram, and that's going to affect Nigeria, northern Nigeria especially. So that's part of it. But lastly, the main point that I want to make on this issue is about democracy itself. Because the guys that is going on between the West and ECOWAS is that they're trying to go restore constitutional order to restore democracy. Let's talk about democracy for a brief minute. Democracy is a vehicle. It's not an end goal. It is not. It is a vehicle to deliver good governance. It is a vehicle to deliver a good economy and to deliver fundamental human rights to the people. If the vehicle is not working, people are going to drop off that vehicle. And so far, so good. Democracy has not really served a lot of African countries. It has not put food on their table. It has not ensured that their leaders are accountable. It's just not working, which is why you see a lot of Nigerians supporting this military coup. Today, our embassy, Nigeria's embassy, was burnt in Niamey today because of what ECOWAS is doing, because Nigerians were tired of their so-called democratically elected leader, because it's not delivering to them. Like, there's no point. UAE they have kings over there, right? Saudi Arabia has kings. Some places may even have a dictator. Who cares? As long as the people can live, as long as the people can breathe. Look at Nigeria with our democracy. The Senate president was mocking poor people, was making a mockery of poor people. So eventually, if Western-style democracy does not deliver comfort to African people, Africans are going to disconnect from democracy. It's inevitable, because the problems of the West that created democracy are not our problems. At the time when democracy started, President Washington in America, and wanted to be president and declare all these terms, it wasn't food as existence they were fighting for. They were fighting for to be recognized, to be almost like their rights as people, to be away from the British. They had a completely different set of problems. In Africa, our problems are basic: food, water, basic electricity. So if that is not coming through, it doesn't matter what France wants, and honestly, it doesn't matter what the US wants. Africans as people will not jump on it. Also, democracy is for citizens. Africans are really not citizens. This is important. If you are not well informed, if you cannot make your choices without the duress of cash, democracy won't work for you. Like, what we have in Nigeria is not really democracy. What we have in Africa is not really democracy. So but I think there's a discussion that we need to have at some point to say, what exactly are we doing? Do we need to go back and create our own version of what this democracy means, that we involved our own traditional institutions that people actually respect and are accountable to a certain degree? Because the disconnect between our democratically elected leadership and our people is very wide. The accountability is non-existent. Non-existent. It's really not working. So I don't think Nigeria should go in. I think it's a misplaced priority, like Peter said. I think President Tinubu is trying to curry to the wishes of the West in order to gain some credibility, some acceptance to establish himself in the seat. That is, for me, that is what was really driving our president. And we should just not do it. We should not kill our brothers. We should not exchange gunfire with our brothers because of this coup. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah, well, like, it's Atlanta Discuss. My name is still Ade Balogun. I have with me Adejuma and Joria, Peter Ogurikwe. Fantastic guys, erudite scholars, always going for the jugular, straight to the point, fantastic analysis. But you see, when I said Nigeria was a failed state, yeah, I'm looking at us being a glorified Eritrea in the nearest future. And that, for the country with the largest concentration of Black people, with all the oil, I mean, Saudi Aramco declared a profit of $160 billion. NNPC, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, in the last 6 to 7 years, has not declared a naira of profit. We don't even see their books. and the Saudis are not even obligated to tell the world how much they make. You can see the development and what have you. So I will stick with what I said that. Well, I pray something change in the future. I don't see how. I don't see when. I look at my focal point, my horizon, my present, everything. I mean, the money tells the day. I mean, the youths of Nigeria are already disoriented. Their priorities are already misplaced. They are not rationally thinking. Dangote is bringing a large number of Indians to come and help work on his refinery. It shows that clearly India is invested in vocational education. We are not. So you can only get a good result if you lay the good foundation. Nigeria has not done that. It's possible that sometime in the future that, yeah, but I do think we need to hit a big rock and bounce back, recalibrate. I think Nigeria is on the verge of that. How that's going to happen, when it's going to happen, I don't know. So we're still on Atlanta Discourse. I'm going to ask one more question before you guys go. The election tribunal, they finished all their major work. There's still the appeal court. I know for the presidential election, it can still go to the Supreme Court, so it's not going to end at the verdict. But you guys think justice will be done? Let me start with you, Adejo. I know it's a tough call. I know it's a neither here or there.
It's always a trap question.
I think today some guy was pulled out, was disqualified for forgery in Kano, and the guy just won one forged document. So I mean, when somebody's got 5, 6, 7 for I mean, it's a tough call. What do you think?
Will justice be done?
Honestly,
I don't know. I cannot be sure. The whole thing seems like a slam dunk. From the beginning. It seems like, why is this even a case? I remember Salisu Buhari. We didn't start catching people for forgery. Toronto, you remember Toronto? Our very first under Obasanjo, they got the guy, they got him out. Obasanjo, I mean, to a certain degree, he showed some integrity there. This current one, the cases of Miss whatever there are so many, they're so blatant that ordinarily you should say, oh, this is a slam dunk case is done, but it's Nigeria. You don't know what to expect. So I don't know. I hope that justice is done. I hope that justice is done. I hope that the obedient movement stays strong. Now, even if the justice is not done, I hope that the obedient movement stays strong, stay together, maintain the core, so that we can launch another attempt if justice is not done.
Peter, do you think justice will be done?
Like they say, there's an active investigation going on.
Okay.
So we shall leave that to the authorities in charge, and they will let us decide.
I like that.
It's a politician.
I know. I like that. Well, I'll tell you, I'm very optimistic. I know the Nigerian judiciary is corrupt, but I've thought about it. I don't think there's any way out of it. I don't think so. I've spoken to people, lawyers,
Tell me the name now. Government magic.
I know.
Into blue. Government magic.
It will be good. You see, that's the thing. It will be good to see that magic. But I'll tell you before we go, yeah. If they create a magic, despite all the incontrovertible evidence, that, in my opinion, will be the final nail on that coffin, proving that it is a failed state, that Nigeria is a failed state. You understand? And that's what I think. So guys, thank you for coming. Peter and Adejo, you guys are awesome. Discussion is always vibrant, robust, and very healthy. And you guys everybody talks about you, and I'm sure we're going to bring you back. I like that topic you said we should talk about. It's democracy, what we really need in Africa. I'm sure maybe in another 2 or 3 weeks we'll come back and discuss it. I've been thinking about it too. I mean, everybody look at Kagame. Kagame is not really practicing democracy, but he's getting the job done. If Mobutu had meant well, he would have delivered the goods.
Gaddafi did well for
Eyadema. So Peter, thank you for coming. Adejuwon, thank you for coming. Guys, it's a wrap. All our listeners and viewers, thank you for your loyalty always. We're going to be back next weekend with another fantastic topic, something that will touch you, something that you all want to talk about. We all learn every day. That's why it's Atlanta Discourse. We need to discuss. We need to keep the discussion running. Thank you, guys. Take care. God bless you all. Bye.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.